Thank you, Bob. And you're so right. We have something very, very special coming. And today it's going to be a really, really fun webinar for everybody. And why is that? I'm going to talk about the money today. And I know everybody likes to talk about the money. And I want to start the webinar, and I want you to answer a simple question in the positive. It's not maybe this might happen. I want you to answer it in the positive. And the question I have for everybody out there is, what are you going to make with OnPassive? And answer it in the positive. And you don't have to do it out loud. Do it in your mind, in your mind's eye. But what am I going to make? Period. As if it's a done deal. Okay. Now, once you get that number in your mind, I know all the negatives are going to flood into your brain. Okay, I got the number. Well, that's nice, but how am I going to do this? What am I going to do? How is it going to come to fruition? And that's okay. Today, I'm going to tell you how that's going to happen. Okay, that's pretty cool. There aren't too many businesses you can come into, have a number in the back of your mind, and know you're going to make that number. I'm going to tell you how to do that. But before I get into that, I want to talk about a little phrase that Ash said, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. And he came on and he talked about business in general. And he said, listen, it takes 10 to 15 years to start a business, develop a business to a place where you're actually making money. And he's right. It takes a great deal of time in order to develop a business, get it to the place where you want it, where you're making money. Okay. 10 to 15 years. Now, the first thing I ask myself when I look at any business is time. Time is the number one thing in everything. And obviously, if I tell you it's going to take 10 to 15 years to get to the place where you want to be, most people are going to go, oh, well, no, I don't want to do that. Either you don't have that much time, or you're young and impatient. You don't want to spend that much time. But Mr. Mufareh was right. It takes 10 to 15 years to develop and build a business. Okay. There's more to that. Not only does it take the 10 to 15 years, but it's that initial sprint where you become competent enough to actually build a business. And that time can vary. It can go from 4 years to 10 years to 12 years. If you look at Marty and I, we've been doing this anywhere from a decade to 2 decades. We've been doing it a very, very long time. And it's taken a great deal of time, especially for me. I'm a little slower than most to become competent enough to do what we do. So when we think about OnPassive and we think about what Mr. Mufareh has gone through, yeah, it took that initial jaunt to get to the place where he could actually come in and start building OnPassive. And that timing was probably 10 years. Now, Mr. Mufareh, when he first started, it was slow initially. It always is. But he became competent enough to become very, very successful in what he did online. And we are talking about a business, an online business. That's what you have. That's what OnPassive is. You have a business within OnPassive. And Mr. Mufareh took that first 6 years, 10 years, whatever it was, to get to the place where he could start building OnPassive. Now, when we think about OnPassive, we think about a 10 to 15 year period, right? Well, not with Mr. Mufareh. And if some of the nefarious things hadn't happened within OnPassive, it wouldn't have been the last 7 years developing and building OnPassive. The time frame would have been much shorter. I.e., that's what Mr. Mufareh does. He's very, very good at what he does. And because of that, he's been able to do it in 7 years. He could have done it in 4 or 5 years if some of the things hadn't happened. But it is a done deal today. I think it's really, really important that you understand that. Mr. Mufareh has done everything he needs to do. That's why this month is a very, very special month. So how are you going to participate? How are you going to use what Mr. Mufareh has put forward to get to the place where you want to be? How does that happen? You already got your number in the back of your mind. That's terrific. I'm glad it's there. But how are you going to do that? And I want to talk about Dan, Marty, and I, and how we approach any business when we initially start to come in. And I think we all do this in a little different way, but we end up in the same place. As I look at a business, when I come in, number one, I look at the business and I look at the products of that business. What do the products look like? Are they good enough to get out there and actually introduce people to? They'll come in and buy the products. So as I do that, I look at the time frame. How long is it going to take me with a particular business to come in and get to the place where I want to be? And the first thing that I do after I've looked at the business, after I've looked at the market, after I've looked at the products, I look at the amount of money I'm going to make. That's kind of what we all do. What can I make with this business? And as I come in, the number really is irrelevant. Okay. I don't care what number you have in your head. It is irrelevant. And when I start to think about what I can make with a particular company, and today the only company I think about is OnPassive. So this pertains to OnPassive. When I think about it, I think about not only the time frame, but I take the number and I work backwards. Okay. So here's the number. Here's what I want to make, whether it's 100,000 a month, whether it's 1,000 a month, whether it's 1,000 a day, whether it's 100,000 a day, whatever the number is, it does not matter. Working backwards, you can kind of figure out what you need to do and how long it's going to take. And as Marty, Dan, and I do that, because of the skill sets we've developed, we know there are a group of things we need to look at and how quickly we can do that. We look at the market. We look at the text that we're going to have to develop. We look at the landing pages. We look at the sales pages. We look at the videos we're going to have to make. Then when we get that stuff done, we look at the traffic source. We look at the testing. We look at how long it's going to take for the traffic to come in to test the things to get to a place where we can scale it. And all of this stuff that I've talked about, we can take any one of these items and we can spend an hour on each one of those items and get the ball rolling, because they're very, very big items. And I know most people out there are going, you know, I'm hearing all this. I'm hearing about the text. I'm hearing about the landing pages, the sales pages, the videos, the autoresponders, the scalability, the traffic. And most people are out there and they're saying, listen, I can't do that. Number one, I don't have the inclination. Number one, I don't have the time. I have a family, I work, I do all these things. I don't want to do that. And that's okay. And I'll give you a good example of just how time consuming it can be to learn all these different phases in marketing online. And I'll take the tech pros. As they came in, they started to do webinars, right? And I don't know how long they've been doing webinars, maybe a year, two, maybe 2.5 years. You've been doing it quite a while. And it took a certain amount of time to become efficient, to become competent at doing what you do. And today you do a really, really great job. Does it stop there? Not even close. Once you learn how to talk in front of an audience, you have to understand what audience you're talking to. Yeah, KYC, know your customer. And if you're talking to affiliates, you talk to them in a certain way. If you talk to customers, it changes completely. And you have to learn how to do that. And I know each and every one of them are doing that today. But it takes a great deal of time to be competent in this area, then go to the next level, be competent there, go to the next level, be competent there. That's what's involved with all the elements that we use to market online, Marty, Dan, and I. And as I talk about that and people listen to that, I know you're going, oh, I just can't do that. It's impossible for me to do that. That brings us to OnPassive. When we start to think about Mr. Mufareh, when we start to think about what he went through to get to this point in OnPassive, it's a done deal. It's happening this month. And you understand what he's done it all for us. To start with, Mr. Mufareh has put all the products together so that anybody, I don't care who you are, if you're a grandma on the West Coast, if you're 18 on the East Coast in Maine, it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter what your skill set is, you can come in and be successful in OnPassive because of what Mr. Mufareh has done. He's put all the tools together that we can come in and use these tools, very, very simple to do, engage in on passive, do what Mr. Mufareh asks us to do, and you will be in a situation to do exactly what Marty, Dan, and I have done for the last 10 years. And that's a really, really big statement. But once you start to understand that, yeah, I can do this, all of a sudden that number that's in your mind, whether it's $1,000 a month, whether it's $100,000 a month, or in a week or a year, whatever the number is, whatever the time frame is, it really is up to you. And when you start to understand that Mr. Mufareh has put this together, not only to build a really massive company, you start to understand that he built it for you, but he didn't leave you out there on an island. He didn't leave you out there on a cloud. You can come in and actually start participating with OnPassive, engaging with OnPassive, and actually be able to do the things that all of us here are doing. And you can probably do that. In fact, you can do that and stay anonymous. You're not going to have to come out and talk to anybody. You're not going to have to do videos. All the content that needs to be developed, Mr. Mufareh is doing that and has done that. So it's a really, really neat place to be, to understand that if your goal is to make $100,000 a year or $1,000 a month, whatever that number is, you have the ability to come in and do that very, very quickly. Now, when I say very, very quickly, understand to build a business takes 10 to 15 years. Mr. Mufareh has made it possible for you and I to come in and do it very, very quickly. And some people will come in, whatever that number is in the back of your mind, and you're going to be able to do that in months. Some people will be able to do that in 2, 3, 4, 5 months, several months. Other people, it might take a year. Other people, it might take 2 years. But with the understanding, as you're doing this, your income will continue to grow as your OnPassive business grows. And that will happen weekly, monthly, yearly, until you get to that place where you have that financial independence. Money is the reason we're here in OnPassive. If your business does not cash flow, you have a hobby, okay? I love that people have really, really good thoughts in their mind, things that they want to do around the world to help people. That's awesome. I don't want you to lose those things, but I want you to keep in mind, unless you cash flow, all you can do is give moral support. That's it. And with OnPassive, because of what Mr. Mufareh has done, because of the structure, because of his vision, you're able to come in and build that income that will allow you to actually do those good things that are in your mind right now. OnPassive, it is a business. And when you think about business, and really, I got this whole impetus from Marty DeGarmo. He was on a webinar, I don't know, a week, 2 weeks ago. He does so many of them, I can't remember which one it was on. But someone asked him what he thought he would make in OnPassive. And he just threw out a number out there, didn't think about it that much. It wasn't that big a deal. And he said $1 million a month. And people went, what? 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 You can't do. Well, because of the thought process we have, we can do that very easily. Because of what Mr. Mufareh has done, you can do exactly what we do. You can do that very easily. I know there are people around the world that if they can make $500 to $1,000 a month, it changes their lives. They go from poverty to middle class to upper middle class. They do very, very well. Some of them go to making more money than most of the people in the country make. Depending on where you're at, it might be $1,000 a month. It might be $10,000 a month. It might be $20,000 a month. You know, 6-figure income, 7-figure income. Whatever it is, because of what Mr. Mufareh has done, if you come in, if you engage, if you listen to the people on this panel, they know what they're talking about. And just do the small things you need to do because of what Mr. Mufareh has done, you have the ability to live that lifestyle you want to live, to get to that place of financial independence, to do the things you want to do. So as I think about OnPassive, as I think about what Marty, Dan, and I have done, the thought process that goes behind it, what Mr. Mufareh has accomplished in a very, very short period of time, really 7 years building a multi-billion-dollar company is unheard of, especially in the tech industry, as the tech pros will tell you. It just doesn't happen. It takes a great deal of time to do the things that Mr. Mufareh has done in a very, very short period of time. And today, as Bob said, we are in a very, very special moment. And it's not a moment where you have to hope for. It's actually going to happen. And Mr. Mufareh, as he comes on and starts to explain what's happening in the next days to come, this is an exciting place to be. If you're not here in OnPassive, you probably want to explore OnPassive a little bit more than you have. It was made for you. It was made for me. It was made for everybody that's here. And we're there. We're in that special place, and it's going to happen this month. So I'll turn it over to Marty. There are a lot of topics there you can go into, Marty. But bottom line, OnPassive was made for you and I to get rid of all the BS that's out there, all the things you had to go through. And today you can actually start a business and know you will be successful.